Dr. Saad, I have been really enjoying your Twitter feed, your X feed lately. I think it's been so crisply put and so prescient and so important about the danger of what Kamala Harris would bring to America, but also to the entire West. I wanted to book you for the entire hour because you do speak about politics, but you don't always speak about politics. But you have found that this particular political threat is worthy of your platform and examination. Please walk our audience through how you're thinking about this.
Well, one of the things that worries me the most, Charlie, is the fact that when people should be engaging their cognitive system when making such a consequential decision as choosing the leader of the free world, they're solely and singularly focusing on their affective system, which basically is a fancy way of saying feelings over thinking, right? Emotions over thinking. Now, it's not that emotions are not important, right? We are both a thinking and feeling animal. So, for example, when advertisers are trying to sell you a perfume, which is a hedonic product, they don't try to engage your cognitive system. They show you a sexy girl on a horse with flowing hair and then some cool brand name like Mystère, right? Because in this case, it's a hedonic product. I want to engage your affective system. But on the other hand, if I'm trying to sell you why you should buy my reverse mortgage or why you should invest in my hedge fund, then I need to engage your cognitive system. Now, imagine if the most consequential decision that most citizens of a democracy will ever make is the choice of their leader. Imagine if one camp, which is the Kamala camp, is completely hijacking the electorate with joy, positive vibes, future vision, right? It's affect, affect, affect. The whole goal is to ensure that you shut off your brain and only allow your feelings to dictate whom you choose for. That worries me a lot because the substance of what she's talking about is very dangerous.
Yeah, and just so this is so important. And by the way, just so we're clear, I hear from people all the time, Dr. Saad, they say, oh, Americans are going to get their reason back and cooler heads will prevail. I say, hold on a second. There's no guarantee at all that the rational or the reasonable will triumph over the emotive or the pathological, right? Dr. Saad, we should not underestimate the power of feeling-based propaganda.
Oh, absolutely, right? I mean, again, thank you so much for having mentioned my next book, Suicidal Empathy, right? It's not that emotions are not important, right? Empathy is a noble emotion when it is triggered in a regulatory manner, in a manner that's within normal ranges, and it is triggered to the right target. But if I prefer being empathetic to, millions of illegal immigrants over my American veterans, then it is misfiring. So it's not that feelings are not appropriate, but you have to evoke them in the right context. So if I want to choose my president, what's your position on immigration, on fiscal policy, on taxes? Do you care more about diversity, inclusion, and equity, or do you support a meritocratic ethos? These are the things that you should be worried about or thinking about when you're choosing your president. And yet every single one of my colleagues, if I ask them, why would you vote for Kamala? It's always emotion-based. She's exciting, she's changed. How has she changed if she's been in the administration for 3.5 years? So even professors who are supposed to have many titles with their names can be completely hoodwinked by their emotions.
So lots to talk about at this topic. How then do we overcome the emotions? Is it time? I mean, for example, during COVID, we saw rationality and reason be thrown out and insanity and feelings and fear win. What do we know about the human brain and how it operates to try and have the reasonable component basically win the day?
Well, in a sense, it is a design fault of the architecture of the human mind. Why am I saying this? Because humans face great computational complexity in the world, right? If I stopped and tried to analyze the pros and cons of every single decision I'd be making, I'd spend the next week choosing which meal to have next, right? And therefore, we need to find what a very bright German psychologist by the name of Gerd Gigerenzer, he called them fast and frugal heuristics. Heuristics are mental shortcuts. Fast and frugal means that they should not be cognitively too effortful, and fast means that they should be easily deployed, right? Well, emotions are autonomic, right? You quickly experience fear, right? You don't need to think about it. So in a sense, it takes a Herculean effort to convince more people to engage their cognitive system over their emotional system. That's why, by the way, Charlie, whether you're Republican or you're Democrat, whenever it comes around to election season, what is the first thing you do? You show yourself with a baby. Why is that?
Yes.
Why do the baby pictures always come out? Because everybody knows that the way to people's hearts is not through their minds, but through their hearts. So this is really a very, very big obstacle to overcome.
It's very difficult. And so, but also we shouldn't just allow one side to utilize it. So obviously I want Donald Trump to win to save the West. How can Donald Trump use emotion and feelings to his advantage? Why should Kamala Harris have a monopoly on such tactics?
So I'm going to answer it in a kind of a reverse way.
Please.
So it's not that he shouldn't elicit necessarily positive emotions, but he should try to at least mitigate the probability that people are negatively triggered by some of his behavior, right? So you know this because I know that you're a good friend of his, and I'm sure that people have tried to tell him. There are ways by which he elicits a negative response. Oh, Donald Trump disgusts me. He's so boorish. He's so cantankerous. He's such a brawler. He has such a bad elocution. Of course, this is not me saying it, right? But each of those reactions are not talking about, I hate Donald Trump because of his fiscal policy. They're responding to like an aesthetic injury. So if only he could modulate that, right? And again, I understand that part of his charm is that unique element, right? But as Aristotle told us, there's the golden mean. Too much of something is not good. Too little of something is not good. If we can get Donald Trump to not get the undecided voters to decide against him simply because he triggers a repulsive disgust reaction, then I think he's on his way to the White House again.